You just gotta keep living, man. Livin.
Welcome to the Rock Your Life podcast. Discover the tools you need to fulfill the highest, truest expression of yourself. From family and wellness to business and goals. It's time to dream out loud. It's time to rock it.
This stuff will rock your world. Rock!
And now your host, Chasta.
My dear friend Sandy Stec to the Rock Your Life podcast. I am flipping out to have you on. You know, I told you this before I hit record. This is my excuse to just hang out with you. So welcome to the podcast.
I mean, we're going to talk, but we're really just hanging out. But that's what it's all about.
It's the truth. That's what this podcast is all about. You know, I mean, truth be told, it's two things. It's an excuse to talk to the people who inspire me. So, I mean, it's completely selfish that I do this podcast, but it's mine. So it doesn't matter.
Right.
But number two, it's for people who have inspired me. And Sandy, you know, you have inspired me for like a decade now.
How?
Do you remember you did an interview blog with me 10 years ago on my Candy Divas blog? You weren't even doing San Francisco radio yet. I don't think you were still like in the South Bay doing radio. And I had a blog at the time called Candy Divas. And I was amazed with you then. My producer was Charlene Godo. And I was like, this girl's amazing. She's hilarious. I love her. And yeah, you like answered questions on our blog. And this was, you know, again,
is that where we first connected? Because I can't even remember. I'm like,
That's what it was.
I have like dementia and I'm only 40. Like, what is going on with me? My memory's so bad.
No, that's mine is too, oddly enough. I blame it on mom brain, but I don't know that that's really what it is.
You
but
should.
No,
you blame everything on your kid.
Yeah, you blame everything on the kid. No, that's where we first connected. And I've just kept up with you and your adventures all this time. But what has always amazed me, first of all, we're both radio girls, I should say. Everybody knows you from Star 101.3. You do mornings there. So we're both not only radio girls, but we're morning girls. And it's just, you know, we have a lot in common in that way. We speak a language that not everyone speaks. So, you know, we connect really quick on that. But also you and I have a huge love for personal growth. We are those girls that read the self-help books, that listen to the podcast, that go to the conferences.
Do you know how, when I find out someone's into that stuff, especially you, like, I just feel closer to you that way. I'm like, oh my gosh, she cares about personal development. Like, it's so important to me. It's part of being a human being and wanting to be your best self.
And growing, just like evolving, like not getting stuck in that. Speaking of like a language, that is a whole world. And I am in personal development every single day. I'm in my gratitude journal. I'm listening to a podcast. I wake up with like really cheesy ass motivational speeches that I listen to when I put my makeup on every morning. Like I am fully in it. And I give that so much credit to me being, you know, a better person, like trying at least to be a better person all the time. So I know that you're a sucker for that. I've seen that you've gone to Tony Robbins conference even, right?
I have. I went to several. In fact, I did one in Fiji. I did one in Palm Springs. I've seen him UPW like 3 or 4 times. So also just because this reminded me, you know how like personal development, there's a lot of different things, meditation, there's gratitude, there's conferences, there's everything. So I went to this thing in Sedona about 2 months ago. It was a women's retreat. Yeah. And it was pretty intense. Like both days were 12-hour days. We would do breath work and there was a lot of crying and it was just intense. And I arrived tired and bitchy. So I didn't even want to be there, which makes me sad because it's Sedona and it's surrounded by like amazing females, but I just didn't have the energy. But at the end of day one, I remember she's like, ladies, because we just did this 2-hour breathwork ceremony. It was really intense, shamanic drums and music and processing. And then she's like, ladies, what you should probably do tonight is go and sit and write out what comes to you, write your thoughts. And I was so tired and angry that what did I do? I drank wine. I took a bath. I ate fudge. And I looked at some adult websites and then I went to bed.
Oh my God, but that is just as healing. That is just, you know what? That is self-care in a totally different way. And I'm
Thank you. It was so necessary. Sometimes I can't be perfect all the time. It's so hard to all the time try to do all the things. I'm tired.
It is. Well, especially in personal growth, because it is so emotional and you're in your head and you're processing and you're thinking so hard and writing it all out. And sometimes you just need to be like, F all, I need a glass of wine. This is insane.
Totally.
So I completely get that. And
Thank
that's
you.
funny that you say that, Sandy, because I think sometimes people get the wrong impression of people like us. Like we're always hustling or we're always trying to figure it out or whatever. And it's like, so people start to have some preconceived notion of what your life looks like. And I'm like, if you only knew, like, give me a break. Life is not perfect. Half the time my house is an absolute dumpster fire from toys from my child. Like, no, life is not beautiful and, rainbows and unicorns all the time by any means.
Well, you know what I used to struggle with too, because I'm a comic. I used to struggle with like I'm a comic and I'm sarcastic and I like to eat crappy foods a lot and I have a terrible mouth, but I also am all these other things that include spirituality and depth and personal development. So it's like I struggled with which one am I? Do I have to pick a side? And now, thank God, I'm finally at the point where they're both at peace, where I love all of them. That's all part of me. We all have layers. We are allowed to have depth, and it makes us who we are. So I'm just glad to not be struggling. But for a long time, I felt like I had to choose.
Oh, God bless, Sandy. I have complete chill bumps all over me. That you just absolutely nailed what it is to be a woman that is growing and understanding who she is, because I used to be the same way. We've both been in radio for so long, and I think you and I, especially, I'm going to pat us both on the back here because I believe this to be 1,000% true. You and I are very genuine on the air. Like we are exactly who we are off the air. Like if I meet you at a bar, I'm getting the same Sandy that I hear on the air.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
I'll just be swearing more in person. Sorry.
Exactly. Amen. Double down on that. Exactly. But, and I think there's so much value in that, but like you do have a role that you play, especially if we're on a show like, we're both on morning shows. You do have a certain role you play. There's balance, there's back and forth, there's all these things. And so sometimes you do become a little bit one-dimensional if you're always playing the same role, and people forget that you are an awesome blossom. You are, all of these layers to peel back from. And that's actually part of why I did this podcast, because people really only knew the musical version of me because I do, the bone, and I do radio, and I do Soundwaves TV, which is all about music too. And so I felt sort of like, but there's so much more I want to talk about. And personal growth is a big part of that.
Good for you. And it takes doing things like this, to show, because here's the problem, people, it's easier if we're in a box. It's just easier for them. And especially being in radio, they want us to, for simplicity of our listeners, and I understand this, they just want us to like, what's your role? What's your role on the show? Who are you? Are you the married girl? Are you the single girl? Are you the funny one? Are you the whatever? And I get it, but I also loathe that kind of thought process, because all of our layers are interesting as hell. We don't have to just be one or two. We can be 5 or 6. We can share all different parts of our lives because everybody has layers, you know?
And I have to imagine, I mean, I'm not a stand-up, and that is scary turf to me, especially now. But I have to imagine, like, in your stand-up work, that's sort of where you get to work out a lot of this stuff. Like, because you are very self-deprecating, and one of the things I love most about you, you're so putting it all on the line all the time. And it's amazing to me. But like, being a stand-up, I do want to dive into this because it kind of stresses me out to think about doing what you do, because it's like, it's so vulnerable. It's so real. When we're on the radio, at least we're, in a box on a microphone. We're not looking at people. It's a different room to be in a room with people who are drinking and you're telling jokes and they're like, be funny and all that crap. Like, when did you start and how did you decide to do that? And do you still like crap your pants when you go on stage? Like, walk me through this, because it's crazy.
And yes. It's so weird. So when I was 18 or 19, I was going to Ohlone College in Fremont. And I told my mom I wanted to do stand-up, and I don't know why or where that came from, but I just wanted to tell jokes. And she saw there was a place in Palo Alto called the Rose and Crown. It was a little British pub or Irish pub off Emerson Street. She's like, Sandra, she cut out, so cute, my mom is. She cut it out, a little piece of paper. She goes, they're doing an open mic on Monday nights. Why don't you try? And I was like, okay. I took it as a sign.
Yeah.
So one night I couldn't go to bed. I couldn't sleep. And all these ideas were coming to me and I didn't know what they meant, but I wrote them down. And that turned out to be my first 5 minutes of whatever the hell I was doing back then, which was terrible, terrible stuff. I mean, it's like you listen to your old radio stuff. You're like, oh my God.
First era checks. How did I even get hired? I know.
How do we have jobs? Thank God we've grown and people have been forgiving, but oh my God, back then, like terrible.
For real.
Comedy, same thing, terrible. But you just start. I'll never forget, my first set was 5 minutes and I killed it. And I was like, that was the drug. I'm like, this is it. This is it. I found it. I found it. I felt like a superstar. And then you ride that high for a little bit. And then it started to kick in the reality of, oh, not every set is going to be fun. And sometimes they're quiet and sometimes you don't get the laughs. And so it's just like, and it's a growth thing where you're at in your life, because I'm, especially after COVID, I don't want to say I've changed, but I have been so beaten down emotionally that I care less about what the audience thinks of my jokes. And it's actually
Ooh.
very liberating
Yeah.
because I don't care anymore. I've gone through so much pain. That last year sucked so bad that bring it. I don't care. I don't care. I was in Alameda 3 or 4 weeks ago for my first shows in person since like last year.
Wow.
And I remember telling them on stage, I said, you guys, I just want to let you know, I'm kind of dead inside and I don't care if you laugh. I don't care. And it felt good to say, but it was also true. And I know it sounds kind of
it's
like
sad and funny at the same time. You're
but
like,
isn't that just life? It's the same way in relationships. It's the same way in your career. You get to a certain point where you're so tired of not being who you are, of trying to make people like you, of following everything you're supposed to follow, that you're like, it's more exhausting to live that existence than it is to chance failing. I'd rather them than don't laugh, but at least I'm at peace with myself on a daily basis or every other daily basis or whatever.
Yeah.
Not all the
I think
time.
that's super valid though. Like speaking of dark and light, I live in that place in my head. I have expressed on this podcast before, which came to be a big surprise to a lot of people, even some people that love me a whole lot. And as I'm a dark person, like my brain is dark. I go to the dark side like really quick. Like there's a scenario, I'll play out the worst case. And when I say worst case, I don't mean like a car accident. I mean like I see blood and guts on the side of the road. Like I'm horrifically dark in my head. But I'm also cheery, chasta, positive girl, which is naturally also, you go back to the layers, is naturally also who I am. So it's like, I can't have the light without the darkness. My brain doesn't work that way. Right. So the funny and the sad can coexist. We can have these differing emotions at the exact same time. And I think people need to understand that. And maybe they are a little bit more coming out of COVID now.
Well, you and I both follow the holistic psychologist, right? On Instagram, who I love so much. Dr. Nicole LePere is her name. And she made a post recently about that, about how like, it's okay to feel multiple things at the same time. We're complex. I think we feel like we have to have the right answer, the right feeling, there's no right, there's layers, there's difference, so even my therapist a few times has been like, why do you always go to like the fatalistic worst case scenario? I'm like, I don't know, dude. It's just where my head goes. And maybe that's our brain trying to like protect us from what could possibly happen. I don't know, but it's not trying to quiet that voice. I think that's what it is. It's being okay with it.
Yes.
It lives in us, but also some other good stuff lives in us too.
Exactly.
And let's marry the two.
My dear friend Hillary, who was on here, she said it the best. When we were talking this whole dark and light thing out, she said, shine the light in the corner, and then you find out it's not a monster, it's a mouse. And now you see what it is, and then you deal with it, whatever it is, whatever darkness is there, you deal with it first. And when she said that, it just opened up this like really beautiful thing for me, because I was like, yeah, it's not weird that I'm dark. It's just like, I acknowledge it. I go, well, this is just the way I see it. And I actually see it just like you do, Sandy. Like, I feel like that is a way of processing, because I lost my dad. It became much worse after I lost my dad, because I was on the phone with my dad, and then a few hours later, he just dropped dead.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So it was just like what, it was just so shocking to me. So I think now it's like my brain goes as far as it can go down the horrific road, so that no matter what really could happen, is not going to be that bad. Right.
Oh, I totally understand that.
I think it's a coping mechanism.
Yes.
I really do. And it's like, so now instead of just like being so afraid of like my brain and how weird it is, and it goes like to these dark places, I go, okay, that's what I'm doing. I'm protecting my heart. I'm like making sure I'm okay. And then we're going to step back from the horror film, and we're going to calm the F down, and we're going to be normal. So I like acknowledge it. And sometimes I'm so crazy, I'll say it out loud. My husband knows this well. Like he knows when to pull me back from
this.
Well,
when you say it out loud, it doesn't live in you anymore. It's just part of it. Just, you get it out. It's all
part
energy.
of putting that light on it. right? It's part of like
Yes.
shining the light on the mouse in the corner. It's crazy. Getting back from my dark brain, going back to stand up. So, because this is why I get stressed out, is because the day we live in right now, this is what I've been really wanting to talk to you about in 2021, which is cancel culture. How in the world can you be a stand-up comedian in cancel culture right now? Because I feel like I would be terrified. I mean, I'm sometimes terrified on the air to say
Me too.
things, right?
Me too.
Because you just never know
Especially in the Bay.
Oh, well, very valid point. Exactly. Yeah. Cause I mean, our listeners are a little bit wild. Like your listeners aren't as crazy as we're boneheads. Like a lot goes on our show and a lot goes with our listeners. But on a show where you had a different demographic, a different set of listeners, I feel like it would be even scarier. How do you deal with that?
Yes. I don't know, dude, because I worry about the same thing. To be honest with you, I hate cancel culture. I think it's awful. I think it's bullying.
Mhm.
And I don't think you can learn anything from it. There's so much
That's
shame
my
in
point.
it.
Yes.
How
Talk
does it
about that.
how does it solve anything? You just
Yes.
want people to go away?
Yeah.
That's abuse in my eyes. If you really want people to learn and grow and evolve and change, help them through this. Help them
Yes.
ask questions, shine the light on them, shine the light on their darkness, because clearly they have some darkness. Some people aren't aware of their tendencies that make them have the mindsets they do. You know, my parents are in their late 70s, and you know, my dad once in a while will say something like, "Dad, no, that sounds racist the way you say it." And
Yeah.
he's
He
not
doesn't mean
racist,
it.
but
Right.
he grew up hearing certain things and it's just from his generation. So it doesn't make him a bad person, but we're
Right.
so quick. In fact, this is years ago. I was on stage at the Punchline and I was doing, I was talking about one time when I was in Chinatown and I was trying on dresses and I didn't fit the dresses. And I love the dresses because they're silk and the patterns are
Right.
beautiful. And the woman who was helping me in the store, I did her voice and people couldn't deal. Well, not that they couldn't deal. One woman walked out because she heard me doing the dialect and thought I was being racist. And I just don't understand how everyone is so sensitive. Like you're not even listening to the joke because the joke was about me. And
Right.
I'm
You're the
good.
punchline. Right.
I'm the punchline. And I
Right.
actually am really good at dialects. I'm
Yeah.
good at it. So that's what frustrates me is like these little things that could make my act come alive. Sometimes I'm afraid to do because people
Yeah.
hear it and just think, oh, racist,
She's
racist.
racist. Right.
Yeah. So cancel culture scares the crap out of me. It really does. And I'm not a controversial comic, but I feel like as I
Right.
grow as a person, I don't ever think I'll be controversial, but I do think I'm going to be more comfortable with saying what I truly feel as I grow and I become more comfortable with my own self. And that's going to piss people off. And I have to find a way internally to make peace with it. You know, like
Yeah.
the other day was, when I went to that Sedona retreat, it was in March. It was the end of this March, and it was a group of about 14 girls. And the person in charge said, does anyone here, you know, if you want to wear a mask inside, you're welcome to, you know, whatever your comfort level is, I respect it. And none of us chose to wear a mask. We wanted to be with each other. And I posted pictures of us standing next to each other without masks. And about 3 or 4 listeners were not happy with that. And they let me know and they wrote it. And then I lost a couple followers. And I'm okay with that because I'm so tired of not living my own truth anymore. I'm so tired of being scared to post and scared to offend. And so it's starting to wear on me more to not be authentic to who I am. So losing people is part of it. Let's lose the ones that don't resonate with us and gain the ones that do. It's so much easier to not fight. You've heard of Abraham Hicks, yeah?
Yes. Yes.
So she always says instead, you know, she always talks about energy. And if you're in a rowboat, you know, it's like you're paddling down the river. That's easy.
Right.
You're paddling. And instead of going upstream against the current, let's
Right.
not work against the current. Let's not try to get people who just don't resonate with us. We're not supposed to resonate with everyone. We're supposed to just speak what our heart feels. And those who get it or who feel the same will come to us. I wish it were that easy, but I'm
I
trying to,
know.
know,
No,
remember it
it's
myself.
it's the truth. No, it is the truth. And I think social media has a lot to do with this because like for instance, in your Arizona trip, people think they know every element of whatever that scenario was, right? So they don't have any idea whether or not you've been vaccinated. They have no idea whether everybody else has been vaccinated. They have no idea if you tested before. First of all, none of their business. They're not there. It doesn't affect them. So we'll just put that to the side. But people, but people don't know the whole story. They are only seeing one tiny slice of the pie and then making giant assumptions about the rest of it. And I think that is super dangerous to do. And it
I do
happens
too.
constantly on social media.
Oh, and I remember there was a post you did. This was last year. And I felt your frustration because I lived with it every day last year of, oh, heaven forbid I take one picture with anyone standing near them without a mask,
That was so infuriating. And because going back to that everybody thought they knew the story, that was the only time in 2020, except for Christmas Eve for 1 hour on a freezing cold patio, that we saw our best friends. And what was so infuriating about that is that we were being uber careful, extra careful, because my best friend's mother was going through cancer treatment. We couldn't F around. We couldn't even be like, we didn't touch, we didn't hug, nothing. When I took that selfie, this is what no one knew, and I didn't think I needed to explain. Right? But we were like probably 10 feet apart because I was in front and they were down at the end of my driveway.
How many people were in the photo?
It was Gianna, Pete, so their family of 4 and our family of 3. Our family of 3 was up here. When I took it perspective wise, it looked like they were much closer than they were. And we all had masks on all day. We literally went like this. I snapped
for the photo.
Still far away. Okay.
Right.
Only time we saw them. And that was it. And people lost their minds. And I thought, how ridiculous that these people are supposed to know, love, and trust me. And they don't, because they're assuming they know every part of the scenario. And it's so infuriating to me. And it happens constantly on social media. And that's where all of this huge division comes from.
Oh, and it's that, look, I understand. I wish people were more aware of their own emotions, because do not put your fears on me.
Yeah.
This is your stuff. That's what I felt a lot of last year. And I wasn't out breaking rules. Like, I didn't go out in concerts or gatherings. Like, for Christ's sakes, I saw my parents on Thanksgiving and got it from my parents, which people still didn't believe. I'm like, I'm sorry. Would you like to talk to my father who had a cough when I saw him, but he said it was a cold, and I believed him because he's my dad and I've heard him have a cold before. So it's just so frustrating because it's like, we are only in charge of ourselves and our emotions. I can't, I have a few friends who are still terrified, and that's okay. Everybody can be where they need to be, but just don't get mad at people who are in a different space. Don't make them the bad guy because they're making different decisions as you. I'm like, last year I wore the mask in public. Do I want to? No. And it's also okay to say, I don't like wearing masks. Doesn't make me an anti-masker. I just don't like it. I like breathing the air. I don't like wearing the mask because I can't breathe in it, especially if I'm out on a walk or a hike. It sucks. Now, do I follow directions? Yes. Thank God the restrictions are lifting now. Yeah. But I hated it.
Yeah, the episode before this was all about coming into whatever's next. So transitioning to what's next, right? And so I was talking about that, like giving people grace. Like trying to meet people where they are. Like, I go out and run every day, and I put a mask on, not on, but on, in case I see people who have masks on, because that tells me, if I see somebody with a mask on outdoors, it tells me they might not be vaccinated. Maybe their autoimmune system, or they have some sort of situation that they're dealing with. They have to be super careful. So then I will pull it up as like a nod courtesy to them. Like, I care, you care about your health. I care about it too. I want to put it up. And what does it hurt me for, 30 seconds for it to go up, to respect their health. And then I pull it back down. Like, it's not that big of a deal. But the whole point of this is to give each other grace. Everyone is in a different scenario. Everyone is trying to deal with this in their own way. This is all of our first worldwide pandemic. None of us know what we're doing. So let's just give each other a little bit of space to be how we are. But it just feels like with COVID, especially, and with, comedy, it feels like people are just ready to pounce. It's like, do you ever feel like people are sitting in the audience waiting on you to F up? Like, they're waiting on you to say something wrong, like, so they can just pounce. Because I feel like sometimes people are just on social, like, who am I going to pounce?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? I hate
total
that
trolls.
feeling.
Well, I just did some shows in Vegas at the Laugh Factory, and It was the opposite of what I thought. I was scared for those shows just because I haven't first time performing there and I'd wanted to perform there for years and it took me forever to get in. And last
Good
year I
for
was supposed to
you.
have my first week, pandemic hit. So then it took, had to wait another year, but, all the audience members had to wear masks. So it's
Mhm.
like, they couldn't really go crazy. I think people are just wanting, at least the audiences I've dealt with, they're just so happy to be back inside and
Yeah.
drinking and being at a show.
Totally.
That's the vibe I got. But I also
Yeah.
feel like, yes, there is this what is it called? Underneath like rage of
Uh-huh.
just
Yeah,
people needing to
underlying.
get some stuff out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yelling at a comic, not the way to do it. Not the
Yeah,
way to do it.
exactly. Yeah.
Go for a run, take a boxing class. There are ways to process. But yeah, but
That's so crazy.
we had a couple people yell out, but not angry at us. They were just drunk and having
Okay.
fun. So I was fine with that. We had a show that
Yeah.
started at midnight, by the way. And I remember telling, oh yeah, we had 10 shows in 4 days. And on Friday and Saturday, it was 8:30, 10:30, and midnight. So 3 shows a
Oh.
night.
Oh,
And I told the midnight show, I'm like, you guys, I don't even know if I'm going to be awake for this show. So if I fall asleep during my set, I'm sorry. Like,
yeah. No pressure on either side. It's
because
fine.
you and I both get up super early. Like I stayed up in Vegas until like 7 in the morning, the first night.
Oh, did you do drugs? I don't understand.
Nope.
There's no
Nope.
way.
I did drugs and they're called slot machines. I love slot machines.
I know you
Girl,
do.
I
That's
love
like
them.
your goal in life to win like what is it? It's on your website. I saw it. It's like,
Aggressive or penny slot, anything. Girl, I had $200 that I was like, and I was so tired because I was on air that morning. I drove 4 hours from Palm Springs to Vegas. I had 2 shows that night. And then at 1 a.m, when everything wrapped up, I was like, okay, I probably should go to bed, but like now I can actually relax. I had the next day off the air. And I was like,
yeah,
I'm just gonna sit at a slot machine. I had $200. I was like, if I lose it, I lose it. It's fine. I brought it
it's
for
fine.
gambling. I turned it into 40 or 4,200.
Go. Oh my God. That's
Yes.
incredible.
So I was on now, did I give some of that
Wow.
back to the casino? Yes, not all of it, but some of it.
That's
But I
part of
still
it.
had
Okay.
so much fun. Like it was a high. That's why I stayed up till 7:30 in the morning.
That's amazing. Speaking of knowing yourself better, hey, you know what makes you happy? That's all that matters.
I do.
I love seeing your travels. Like you go, speaking of Vegas, you go to the desert a lot. That seems to be like where your heart sings. That was one of the things that stuck out to me a long time ago was that not just that you travel, but that you travel solo. And there are a lot of people that won't even go to like a movie by themselves or go eat. And yet you'll go on like full blown vacations multiple times a year by yourself. I think that's super duper rad. I would love to go to the desert and just chill the heck out for, 5 days or whatever. How did that start for you? When did you start doing that?
Only child. So I think that's part of it.
Okay, yeah, definitely.
And I also think you and I are very alike. We could be friends and meet people wherever we go.
Yeah.
So I also like to talk to people. So
Mhm.
where I never feel alone. I like the time when I get back to my hotel or wherever to decompress and be on my phone and watch crappy TV. But I like being out and exploring during the day and meeting people on their journey and finding out where are you from and like it's so cool to meet in these beautiful places and just explore together even if you're not
Yeah.
like with them or people. So yeah, I don't know. It's all I've ever known. And also I used to get so pissed off at my friends because they would flake and I just said, screw it. Then I'm going to go on my own. And I really love it. I love it.
You like the solo travel. Why
I
the
do.
desert?
Don't know. Always been, my aunt lives in Chandler, Arizona. And when I
Oh.
was, I think 12 or 13, we visited her and that was the first time. And then that was when Bon Jovi's Crossroads album came out. And the front of that album was them in the desert. And I don't know if it was like I don't know, but all that tied together. I'm obsessed.
We thank Bon Jovi for the solo desert trip. I love that. That makes my heart
Totally. I'm like Blaze of Glory all the way. Like it's what I love. It's what I love. So yeah, but you know how there's certain landscapes that just you feel at peace.
Oh yeah.
What do you think yours are?
I'm definitely a mountain girl. Like when I get, I wear this, I don't know if you can see that ring, but it's a mountain ring.
Oh, that's
So,
cool.
Yeah. And I'm not like a skier, snowboarder. It's not that kind of mountains. Like I just need to be in trees around birds and quiet. Like if I'm in a forest where I can't hear anything but nature, I'm probably happiest. Like
That's awesome.
must be my country girl or something. I don't know. But my husband's family has a cabin up north of Tahoe in a little tiny town called Gray Eagle. And when we get close to it, it's like I literally feel my blood pressure go.
That's
right?
exactly how I feel.
Right. And it overwhelming peace and calm. And like, I don't have all the craziness that I deal with every day. It's it's there. My husband is always like, I don't know if I could live there all the time. He knows I could. I could be like in a Kaczynski cabin by myself for a long time. My husband couldn't. He'd get island fever real fast.
Really?
I love it.
I
love
could
it.
as long as there's Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
I gotta have my amenities. I'm sorry.
Hey, hey, you gotta have what you gotta have. But I mean, I could do that. I could move to an island and it's kind of part of the joke. If I ever win the lotto, I could like disappear to an island and never see anybody again. It's not because I don't love people. I do like being alone. That's why your solo trips. And when I say alone, I mean both alone and with my closest peeps. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I definitely thrive in that way. That's why during COVID, it hasn't been absolutely critical on me personally, because I do like I'm a Cancer. I like to be in my little cave with my little people. And so it hasn't been as hard on me as it has been on some other people.
Well, also in our jobs, and a lot of people, it's easy to, like, when we watch TV, we consume it. We want to be entertained. It's the same thing with radio. We are entertainers, but I don't think what people understand is you're never not on the clock. You're never not thinking about the next day, the next bit. What are people talking about? What's in the news? What's trending?
Preach.
What national holiday can we find a picture to put on social? So our brains are always on. And that is why I need to get alone and be in Joshua Tree sometimes, because I don't want to think. I need to come from up here down here for a second so I can feel my heart back into my body, because it's like it gives me so much stress to always be on.
You are the blonde version of me. You are literally my twin, separated at birth. I shit you not. Like, it blows my mind, because that is exactly it. And I think people, and I know people, because people say this to me all the time. I'm sure they do to you. Oh, I could do radio. Like, that's so easy. Like, you just go in and open a mic and just like talk. And people have no idea that, yeah, we're not digging ditches and we're not curing cancer, but it is an all-consuming job. And when you're not consumed with life and paying attention to every detail to try to get a funny story for the air or whatever, then you feel like you're constantly behind. It's like a constant forced FOMO. Like, I feel like I'm not keeping up.
Oh, I'll go to bed. If I go to bed early, which is on time, but if I go to bed like at 8:30,
yeah.
Marcus, my co-host in the morning, and Jason will sometimes be talking about something that happened overnight. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I was asleep. Yes. I'm sorry I didn't get it. I was sleeping. Like, you always feel behind no matter what. It's
so true. It is exhausting. And so maybe that's where the desert/forest thing for us really comes in. It's just like, okay, literally light switch, boom, turn it off. The noise is gone. And
it's the noise. That is a great word for it, is the noise.
Yeah.
And what people don't know is when we're on air, that's the easy part. It's all the stuff getting ready to be on air and off air, planning for the next day, and interviews and editing and commercials and there's a lot of stuff.
It's a lot. There's a lot that goes into it. I could geek out with you for hours on it, because I love that we do speak that language and completely know what each other's day really looks like. It's like all the things that line up. It's so true. Do you feel like when your personal growth side of you and your solo travel side of you, do they really hold hands in your life? Is that why both of those exist, do you think?
I think so. I mean, I suppose if I had, what I do know now that I've worked so hard on myself is, if and when I find my partner who I'm supposed to be with, or the next person I will date seriously, I need someone who gives a shit about their own personal growth, who has done some of the work on himself, who has acknowledged his dark side, who is authentic, who has integrity, because I've worked on that for myself. That's the hardest part, is you as you grow and change, you realize your standards grow and change. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
But finding those good eggs, like I don't know where I'll meet him. I know I will, and I know I'm deserving. And that's the difference.
Yes.
It's taken me a long time, but I am very happy to be in the place where I'm like, I am deserving of a good, loving man who adores me, but also someone who values himself.
Yes.
Himself enough to tell the truth, to be authentic, to do the work. We're all a work in progress. The work's never going to end. So as long as we're alive, the work is never going to end. But I want someone who understands that and is okay with it,
I love to look at you and not only hear you say that, but see that you believe that.
I do. Yes.
I can see that you believe
it. It has come into it's in my heart. It's in my body now. And that's really new for me within the last year. And I honestly think it was meeting my darkest side for COVID, just feeling so shamed and exposed and angry and isolated and depressed. And I just can't go through that anymore. And somewhere in the middle of coming out of that and working on myself and feeling better, I realized, holy crap, like I deserve way better than what I put myself through, what I've been through, and what I expect for myself. So
Mm-hmm.
life changes when you start to value who you are. It really does.
You know, I wish I could tell you that I remember who said this because I think it really works here, but I don't. So I'm just going to steal it from them. But people will do to you what you tolerate. They will continue
Yes.
to treat you the way that you tolerate and you allow. And I learned that the hard way. You know, I was for the longest time, I mean, I guess you could say kind of a welcome mat. I was like sweet little timid, like, okay, I guess, said yes to everything and like didn't want to upset anybody, didn't want to be, you know, confrontational, any of that. Like I was just
Yep.
really like, I was just the sweet little flower. And the older I get, the more I'm like, no, what? You know, and then I see where people take advantage of that. And I've been able to, in that personal growth space, really understand where that comes from, the people pleaser, you know, part of me, and how to fix it and just be more confident in who I am, what I want, and where my boundaries are. And
Well,
it's crucial.
and also shout out to the men in our lives who are mature enough, who've done the work, who can sit with us through that,
Yes.
through all of that, because it like it takes a good person, a good man to, and look, there's people listening who are in gay relationship. It doesn't matter, your partner,
Yeah.
whoever your
Yeah.
partner is, but
Yeah.
because the part of me wants to rip on guys right now because there's a lot of emotionally immature men and a lot of them are in our industry. But
Yeah.
but I feel like if we want to express something that's deeper than just funny, it's like,
Right.
what is she doing?
Oh,
And it's
here we
like,
go.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you get this little doormat side of you that just shuts up because it's easier. I'll shut up because
Yeah.
it's easier. I'll shut up because I'm funny. I'll shut up because this. And it's like we have to be brave enough to go there. But thank you to the people, the partners, the men who encourage us
Yeah.
to explore that side of ourselves, who give us that safe space to
Yeah.
express that. It helps us.
Yeah, my husband is a half and half of that because really 50, no, that's not true. 75% of the time he's completely here for whatever BS I have to spew at him, personal growth. Like he's not a guy that lives in Bree's podcast of personal growth. Like that's just not who he is. But he's very open to it. Jay is very spiritual. He's very about like next level stuff. I love that about him. But he also is that guy that when I open my mouth and I say something like, okay, so I'm just here to say, and he's like, oh God, here we go. Like, you know,
Right. Well, you know what's funny? I follow a lot of spiritual guys online and I'm like, oh my God, this is so funny, or this is so beautiful. Like I'm so
Yeah.
touched. But then like what I gravitate to is the funnier, kind of almost dark dudes sometimes. Like it's because that's who I am too. We can
It
have
goes
all
back
of
to that
it.
balance. Yes, it can. See, we've come full circle now. It comes back to that balance, right? Like I so appreciate that Jay will completely go there with me. Like he and I, we go deep. Sometimes my favorite thing is sometimes like on a Friday night when we're extra tired, we just don't have anything else to give. We don't want to watch TV or anything. We just want to just sit and drink and
Yeah.
eat. So we get burritos, we get beer, and we crawl in bed. We eat burritos and have beer in bed, and we listen to playlists and we talk about like our songs and our childhood and like why this song is, you know, important to us. And oh, this song was with my ex or whatever. And I love so much that he will go that deep with me, you know.
By the
And
way, your next podcast could be called Burritos in Bed. I'm just saying it
oh,
sounds
we did
good.
that. We did that for was it Valentine's Day? I think it was Valentine's Day if I remember right, or maybe our anniversary. I can't remember, but we did that. We got drunk in bed and just sat there and chatted.
God bless you. See, that's what it's all about.
Right. I mean, so, you know, he will go there with me, but sometimes I think his heart is just like, I was thinking the other day, Sandy, and I bet you're the same way. I need a disclaimer. Like, I should come as a friend with a disclaimer because if I fall into something like a podcast or a personal growth, or I will text it. I'll be like, you need to stop your life and you need to listen to this right now. So that's what I come at my husband. That's the kind of energy I come.
No, I do this. Actually, that's so funny. So I don't have a guy in my life, but poor Marcus on our morning show, because we're together 8 hours a day. So it's like,
Right.
if I see something that excites me, I like want to share it right then and there. And if they're not excited about it, like today I tweeted something where I said to Marcus, I said, does this make sense? And it was a joke about the yellow tear and he didn't get it. And I was
Oh
really
my God,
angry.
I laughed out loud when you tweeted that. I thought it was so funny. I laugh out loud at your tweets all the time. I almost said a really bad word there. At your tweets all the time. But like, no, that was a great joke.
No, that was a good one. But the one before that I didn't post didn't make as
Oh.
much sense.
Okay,
So
got it.
he picked up on it. And then I was pissed off that he didn't pick up on it. And I was like, this is so what I would do if I was in a relationship. I get mad at my husband for not not liking my joke, even though my joke wasn't actually that good. So
That's not your fault that it's not that good. It's his fault for not having a sense of humor, obviously.
thank you. It's always
Right?
his fault.
My God, Sandy, I could do this all day with you. I just love you so much. And you're such an inspiration. You really are. I know that sounds super cheesy and maybe it just sounds like I'm saying it in passing, but the truth is, like, I see some of the stuff you put on social and like on Instagram, I'll scroll through and you will just pour your heart out to, your listeners and, your people on Instagram. And it is amazing because like not just anybody is brave enough to just put their rawest, purest self out into the world. And the fact that you do that, it's so beautiful. It really is. And
Thank
it inspires
you.
me.
It feels good to do. Sometimes I
Yeah.
get nervous and sometimes I don't. But when I do,
Yeah.
I always feel like my soul just took a breath of air, like I rebooted. And it's nice to see
Yes.
how many people can resonate. Like the more vulnerable you are or you allow yourself to be, it's surprising how many people have been waiting to hear something like that because they need it too. They just don't have the strength to do it on their own.
Amen. I have chills again. That's why this podcast exists. If anybody ever asked me why I have succeeded, their words, not mine, why I have succeeded in radio, it's always that I've done that. I've opened the curtain and let them seen behind. I've like told all of my drama, and not in like a headline kind of way, just as like, you guys, I'm going through a divorce. Like, what the hell? I told my whole divorce story on the air. I told my whole dad's death story. I went through that process with my listeners. And
good for you, but that's the truth. That's your truth.
And that is, we all go through that. We all have these similar stories, not the exact same versions, but we all go through death and divorce and, or not all of us, but, financial troubles. We all
Real
have
life.
our own bag of crap that we're dealing with. And it makes people feel less alone in the world when they hear somebody like you speak up about whatever it is you're going through, So being
Yes.
real with people, it really goes a
Especially
and
after
you have
this
hit
last
me.
year.
Oh God. Amen. Amen. Because people who had really, really great lives and were like, what does everybody talk about these dramas? And then we all hit COVID and we were like, whoa, like it changed everyone at the
Everything.
exact same time.
Yep.
So people now hopefully can find a place to relate to each other. I hope these huge gaps between us can become smaller. I'm not sure social media helps with that, but I just appreciate you, Sandy. I really do. I appreciate your heart. You're one of those few people in life where you see you, but you see straight to your heart. And I so love that about you. So
that is one of the best. Thank you. That is the nicest compliment I could ever receive. Thank you. Because that's something I strive for is I just want to share my heart.
You do. Thank you. You're super authentic. So I want to make sure that everybody knows where to follow you. So where do you want to point people online? Where do you hang out most?
Mostly Instagram, Facebook once in a while, but I'm kind of over it. So at Sandy Stec, SandyStec. I'm on all the things. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you also have a website where if people want to check out all of your stuff, sandystec.com, right?
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, love. Thank you so much for being here. I love you. And we will have to do this again soon if you're willing to come back.
I'm coming to visit you in Pacifica.
Yes, let's do this. We can do a beach version of this. We can get wine on the beach because I live half mile from the beach. We can get wine on the beach and we'll bring our recorder and mics.
It's already done. And burritos.
Okay. Yeah, and burritos. Burritos. All right, babe. We'll talk soon. Love you. Bye-bye.